This set of poems is from 2 books of mine, Flare Corona and Field Guide to the End of the World. This is They Are Not Regenerating, Zombie Stripper Clones. There's not enough poems about zombie stripper clones, in my opinion. Oh, can you hear me in the back? Yes, no, we're too quiet? Yeah, okay. We are not zombies, thrown into a pool of dubious origin and coming back beautiful but decaying, unsure of how to live, pretending to swim, eat yogurt like regular girls. We are not clones, despite being drawn to specifications 36, 26, 36, and bearing bouffants and bikinis. We might hack each other to pieces, but we are not confused about our identities, living or not living. We continue in the shape we were given. Our cells cannot regenerate, and the scientist names us dead. We are not regenerating. We cannot reproduce ourselves. We cannot be anything but the fulfillment of your fantasy, flesh-eating or not. Spooky. All right, hold on. Cannot turn a page with the magnet again. Multitasking. All right. So this is Introduction to Teen Witchcraft. If you've watched any of those teen witchcraft movies, which I know there's a lot of, but it's good for watching this time of year, they're silly. Introduction to Teen Witchcraft. Always these young women in search of power, their eyes rolled back in their heads, midriffs exposed. Always some girl with a candle in a dark room, and poof, her face brightens as she achieves some moment of bliss. The raindrops around her freeze in midair. The wolves stop baring their fangs, and for a moment the young girl marvels at her own invincibility. Within its fire, always someone with a stake or a knife ready to do her in. She's a spark about to go out. Teen girl vampires. Teen girl vampires turn feral while defending their human boyfriends, harmless and blonde in varsity jackets and crew cuts. These girls just want to be loved and fed in that order. And can we blame them? A nurse here or there won't be missed, or the guy playing second policeman. Bram Stoker equated blood and sex. Mina chaste and clever while hunting her Dracula down, his bite awakening impulses that ignited but were ignored. These days, teen vampire girls enjoy sex with abandon, tossing lovers around like tree limbs. These days, the girl doesn't succumb to the monster. She is the monster, teeth gleaming in the moonlight, coquettish limbs and curls masking superpowers. Oh, she still wants to be the prettiest girl at the prom, of course, and perhaps she mourns some future idea of motherhood. But men line up for the promise of her bite, her blood. And she has nothing to fear. She cannot be broken, tarnished by age, her heart impenetrable to anything except that wooden stake. And this is from Flare. This is Self-Portrait as Murder Mystery. Any murder mystery fans in here? We read them all the time in the clubs. Yeah. A luxury liner on the high seas loses contact during a storm. A train is trapped in perilous mountains by an avalanche of snow. A cabin on an island when the power goes out. The passenger is suddenly isolated and everyone is a suspect. The kindly nanny, maybe an American spy. The priest, who is certainly an assassin. Everyone else is a magician or Nazi scientist. Every detail oozes with malice. The waiter who pours the suspect tea into a cup with steady grace. A newspaper headline that announces bombings in an obscure European town. The anarchist dragged out to be shot by ever-present police. There are so many coincidences and red herrings that every missing ring, every lost suitcase inherits charged importance. And what you love about these stories is the shoestring lace that ties everything together, the trail of clues like pebbles you could follow home to make order out of chaos. How we long for our lives to be so easily solved. What a surprise for the reader when the murderer turns out to be the narrator herself. The way she slipped out of the room at the right time with a gun, the way she misled everybody with her kind smile and rhinestone cane. Dun, dun, dun. All right, one more. Yes, one more. All right, good. And then we'll get on to the main feature reader. This is also from Flare Corona. This is My Life is an Accident. My life is an accident of DNA and radiation, a million missed chances for death to sweep me off my feet. Too many of this, not enough of that, a witch's spell for trouble. Red-haired and scarlet-fevered, born with wings and a tail, an immune system weak as a kitten and a knack for being in the wrong weeds at the wrong time. Fascinated with systems, folders, and fossils, tracking down each dinosaur, and later delivery systems for rare antivirals, government research into nuclear facilities, conspiracy theories about aliens and solar flares. I was never meant, not planned, not absorbed into the mainstream, never meant to survive this long according to charts and scans. She's a miracle, they said. She's a mutant. She's a baby born of a bad seed. Modern living makes a body bitter. Our blood and flesh filled with hormone disruptors, flame retardants, and false positives. But I'm a haymaker, a harbinger, a fateful warning of things to come. All right. Now we will introduce the featured reader. So, Lesley's been a longtime friend of mine, and we bonded over our shared love of science fiction poetry, which has been sort of a niche market for us. But Lesley has gone on to do many other amazing things, which I'm worried about right now. So she is the author of 6 books of poetry, including Mycocosmic, her latest book of poetry. She writes fiction and nonfiction, including the novel Unbecoming, which we read for our book club. She's the poetry editor of Shenandoah and lives in Lexington, Virginia, where she teaches at Washington University. Her work has been supported by Fulbright, the National Endowment for the Humanities, and her work has been published in Poetry, Poets and Writers, Best American Poetry. So basically, she's a superstar. And let's all give her a very warm welcome, Lesley.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming, and I'm so glad to be here at this beautiful spot and reading to you. So I'm going to start by reading from the 2020 novel. I'm just going to read like a page of it, but I just spoke at the Olympic Peninsula Fungi Festival, which is where I bought these excellent reishi earrings, like the publishing a book of poems with a giant mushroom on the cover has given me entree to certain places, which has been really fun. But I'm going to read just a page or so that, do you know what a fairy ring is? Yeah, ring of mushrooms, where, you know, it sort of acts like a portal. I'm going to read that moment from the novel. Whoop, did I just turn it? Is it still working? Yeah. For some reason, even though my daughter won't let me do magic mushrooms, for some reason this was like the easiest scene to write. I also have not yet walked into a fairy ring, but I will try. Oh, I should say that the main character is a professor named Cynthia, and her best friend, her arch enemy is, that was an interesting slip, Fee, who is a visiting professor from Wales, and so she's leaving Fee's house, this main character is, feeling kind of irritated. As I walked, not watching where I was going, a jagged charge ran up my leg. I looked down and saw that I had veered off the curving walkway onto the springy turf under an oak. The branches were bare, but the grass underneath, dotted with moss, remained green. I had trodden on a sprinkling of mushrooms. No, on an uneven line of them. Oh, holy smoke, a ring of toadstools brushing the knobby roots of a grand old oak on a grand old street in central Virginia. I was half inside a fairy ring. With a shudder of desire, I brought my other foot forward too. Is this what unhappy people do? Walk into fairy rings? Once I stood inside the circle, the dog's bark was muffled, then melted away. I heard a trickling stream but couldn't see it. The light changed, not darkening exactly, but turning greenish, the hue Midwesterners say precedes a tornado. Yet there would be no storm here, just a watery peace. I dropped my coat and purse, but held on to Fee's wreath. No more burdens. Inhaling piney air, I realized the aches in my shoulders, hips, and temples had vanished. I hadn't been conscious of pain. until it released me. I met wait staff the other week who had a ring of mushrooms tattooed around her thigh like a fairy ring. I thought that was super cool. All right, from Mycocosmic, which is an invented word, so it is impossible to mispronounce it. You have my authorization to say it however you want. I'm going to read the first poem, the third poem, and then tell you a little bit why, although they seem not to have anything to do with each other, they actually do go together. Something that might be helpful, this was interesting, at the Fungi Festival, I didn't have to explain any fungal references. They all got it. I could talk about the cordyceps or zombie fungus, and they were there. This one, if you haven't heard the word mycelium before, that's the underground part of the fungus from which mushrooms occasionally fruit. So mushrooms are this manifestation of these organisms, sometimes giant, that have their brain is kind of working underground, and something that I became really entranced with some years ago, reading about the Wood Wide Web, the idea that trees are passing forth, back and forth nutrients and chemical messages about invading pests, that none of this would be possible without this underground action of mycelium, which helps everything connect. And I love the idea of connectivity, and I find it really inspiring in a time when everyone around us seems so divided. This is one of those poems where the title, "We Could Be," runs into the first line. We could be mycelial, eating toxins together, decomposing what's still indigestible about this place, the singed taste. Could spread our soiled hands wide, vegetate, infiltrate, collaborate. Below ground, we could grow fat on loss, bust out in the wildest shapes. Puffball, flagellant, our mistakes gorgeous in dispersal across polluted skies. Help me try. And this next one, Sex Talk, is about the most awkward conversation I've ever had. An illusion that you might not know unless, like me, you wrote your dissertation on modernist women poets, that Marianne Moore was a poet who lived and wrote 100 years ago. After a fight, men want to have sex, but I don't, my mother said. She glanced at undergraduate me from the driver's seat as if a membrane had been breached and asked, "Do you?" I wanted to change the subject. We were returning from the mall through the stony suburb where the model lived, the one who said, "Nothing comes between me and my Calvins," where the fire department floods the common every winter for skating, creating warty ice ungroomed by zambonis, grass snagged in its skin like ingrown hairs. My mother kept looking at me, her eye a sideways question mark, tricky liquid liner painted on the lid, pupil unrelenting. Everyone in the family except my mother owned their own lockable room. She had to read her Harlequins out in the open like a gazelle. We stalked through, asking and asking, "Where is thee? Why can't I? Help me." Nightly, her shirtless husband arrived with a pump jar of Jergens, demanding she moisturize his back, scaly from chlorine, but I knew, spy crouching on the stairs, fingertips brushing wallpaper embossed with creamy trees, its surface all bubbles and seams, what he was after. Once, at a modernism conference, a guy chased me around the canapes while lecturing me on Marianne Moore's asexuality. I knew my mother didn't like sex, but I never asked, was it generally or just sex with my father? Nothing gets between me and my shame. I don't know what Moore wanted, just that she wrote cryptic poems under her mother's surveillance. Heterosexual marriage, she too disliked it. She was nearly 60 when her mother died. Now I know death's intimacy, how honesty frightens me. My mother is everywhere, cells lodged in my body, invisible flakes of skin on sweaters, a baggie of ashes on the bookshelf. Not after a fight. Until adrenaline burns off, I'm hot the wrong way, clenched. I hope she knew what an orgasm feels like. During my first, a rainbow tree grew between me and my eyelids, privately. She said to us over her book, "No, I don't want to hug you goodnight." So that was a poem that, so after my mother died in April of 2021, I was, of course, writing a lot of poems from and about grief and those difficult last few weeks. But I was also surprised that, not long after that, all of these poems started pouring out of me that were subjects I didn't know I'd held back. Her formal education ended at age 16, but she read every book I wrote, and she had things to say about them. Yes, no, it was wonderful, and I realized that there were things I was not going to write about, knowing about that readership, and so Sex Talk is one of those poems that's like, oh wow, where did that one come from? And that one. I was so shy about that I only sent it to print magazines so that fewer people would see it. And it got picked up in the Gettysburg Review, but then it turned out to be their last issue, which got a lot of attention because they were shut down prematurely, that magazine. And then Poetry Daily picked it up, and then Best American Poetry picked it up, and it's like, all right, 2 lessons, don't think you're gonna keep a secret by publishing a poem. And the other is take the risk, right? If there's something you're scared of writing about, that's exactly what you should write about. All right, so Jeannine read this manuscript in the early stages. Well, no, I thought it was done, and I sent it to her thinking she was going to say, "Oh, yay, you're brilliant, it's perfect." And she said, no, it's not done. She said, "You hid your best poems in the middle and the back, and I don't think you've found the thread yet." And, I got off the phone, and I stamped my foot once, and then I was like, oh God, she's right, because she had articulated something I sort of knew and didn't want to admit. And, I tell this story often at readings without naming you, because I'm not sure how you'd feel about that, but everybody says, wow, that was a good friend. And, I agree. So I started looking for other threads that ran through the book, and I realized that I knew that there was all this fire imagery going through it, and I had a working title for a while that was Good Things Come Through Fire, which is something a tarot reader said to me a long time ago, and then I was like, no, Age of Wildfires, this is a very bad idea to have this title. And I realized that there was this thread of poems about mushrooms and mycelium that went all the way through the book. And I kind of had this theory that fungus was having a moment. There's more and more interesting research done about it. And so I tried rearranging it with that in mind. And then one day I just had the brainstorm, what if I wrote a poem tying all the threads together that ran through the book across the bottom of each page, a line at a time. And I tried it, and I felt like it kind of sewed the book together. I wasn't sure what all these materials had to do with each other, but when I really started thinking about mycelium, that's when I understood that mycelium fungus metabolizes death. Without the action of fungus and bacteria, death would overwhelm the world, and that it was a kind of, it deeply fits the subject of grief and of course secrets and underground worlds. The other thing that Jeannine told me is that she wanted a poem in which I looked in a mirror, which was a little random, but I said, yeah, okay, I'll do that. So let me see if I can find that one. Great. Yeah, this one is called Smart. And again, commissioned by Jeannine Hall Gailey. At 25, adrift in the mirror, I cried, "It will never get better than this." Shocked, then laughing, as if a time-lapse film unblossomed in the rented sheen of the medicine cabinet. The girlishness I was told to tend, ready to crisp and drop. That's what pretty does. It dies. So I shrugged off pretty, despite my mother's warnings, and chose a cheap wedding dress that quit at the knee and loosely shrouded the most suitable I'd ever be. Refused to process in regalia for my PhD. Smart shatters the vase. Smart skips the strappy heels. Smart enough to learn I would never matter to my father except as I reflected him. I gathered bouquets of promotions and pages, each stained by pistols under pressure for years. Now I'm a litter of leaves molding in a specimen jar. Through the bottle protecting me, I see how often it's the pretty one gilded by honors. The irony. It's not that I picked the wrong way to please. My eye's just smart. It's the cell walls breaking down. All right, now I'm moving on to poems that fit Jeannine's theme of spookiness, indirectly. This one's got some Frankenstein in it. Oxidation story. The body bled for 7 weeks before succumbing to a surgeon who torched the nursery like a mob of angry villagers. You bet they're angry. Everybody's angry. Physiological indices of anger include rose-tinted vision, muffled hearing, rapid heart rate, and perceived distension of time. Some epinephrine sharpens recall. Too much impairs it. Does a doctor like to burn patients? The body can't remember. The body likes anger, the livid exhilaration, not so much the landscape after. Once the body, aching, made an appointment with a psychic. He wore a shirt imprinted with a wolf. When he lay down the cards, he said, "Good things come to you through fire." The body hot flashes, remembering months it bled and weakened, how it stank of smoke. Now the body is a ruin haunted by a girl of 12. Over and over she finds the first red smear and phones her mother, who cries, "I'm sorry." The villagers never say, "I'm sorry." The body searches through embers for something good. It feels sorry for the girl with so much to dread until chemistry releases her. I think that tarot hand, I didn't know much about tarot at the time, but it must have had a ton of wands in it, which is the fire suit. And I remember the devil and the tower and lots of fiery things in it. So I suspect good things come to you through fire was his way of making the best of things for a paying customer. Little does he know what happened. All right, this one references a couple of hauntings. I'm not claiming that they're ghosts, they just felt like them. Sometimes we haunt ourselves. Memorandum of understanding. I believe in utility poles, transformers, lightning arresters, subtransmission lines, and static lines. The dead southern yellow pine on the corner and its arcane spiral symbols. I've woken to a stranger murmuring my name. Once in a rented house, a ghost girl saying, "Help me." I wear earring chandeliers of scavenged foxglows. I've never seen white hands in the dark, except mine. I once caught the signal of a running man, a dimness near the moving boxes in my antebellum office building. There's blood in the walls. I don't know about spirits. I believe in trying to talk, but mostly in listening. Power cables are insulated by the air itself. Overhead, it mumbles and sometimes shrieks. I can feel its tendrils reaching for me. How are we doing for sound, by the way? Is the microphone working?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Just a little bit of static.
Yeah, I heard it, so.
That's because we were talking about electricity.
Yeah, right? We're invoking something. After my mother died, I had a lot of dreams, that very real kind of dream where the beloved person comes to you, and I would have conversations with her in the afterlife. This is one of those. A lot of it is in her voice or quotes, things she says in the dream. It's called The Facilities. In the afterlife, it's hard to find a toilet. We wander through sun-drunk, mazy hedges, happening on family and friends sitting in clusters of generous lawn chairs. But the nearby house, she points out, has too many steps for all these old people. She says she prefers the second of the flower beds where I sprinkled her ashes around those trillion. Aren't they strange? In earshot of children roaring at the zoo. But please stop carrying my cremains in a tin for arthritis cream, for heaven's sake. It's funny, she goes on, the pitch of her voice a meandering vine, how your dreams dress me in what I wore to your wedding. I worry too much about those arrangements, always guessing what other people were thinking, as if anything matters except the company of birds and close by a cleanish bathroom. Hold my hand, that's right. When you wear my earrings and they chime, that's me looking for a place to go. Oh yeah, I ought to read you one really fungal one. This is the zombie fungus one. Do you, I don't know, if you've read about mushrooms, you might know that the fungus changes the behavior of the animals it infects sometimes. And this is a case where it's a kind of carpenter ant that lives in tree canopies, and it gets infected with the fungus, which needs the ant to go down to the forest floor, where it busts out of the carpenter ant's head and creates spore. So, yeah. So, I often wonder, what is fungus making me do? Did it persuade me to write this book? I don't know. Carpenter ant with zombie fungus. Some days the soil spits up toys and teeth of broken glass, clay scent and green insinuation. Beneath, within, hyphae fizz with information, phosphorus for the river birch answered by food converted from light. Maybe what seemed haunted is involuted. Here in the little yard where I did not mean to confine my life, quietness gives acoustic space not just to leash dogs speaking their hearts, not just to wrens and the outraged catbird with her score of scolding tones, but to a rumble I can almost feel and chemical signals I may respond to before I mean to, the way a word of wonder leaps from my tongue without leave. Mycorrhizal conversations, brightly intimate scenes spiking through me the way a fungal fruiting body erupts from an ant's head. Mycelium knows some things about what the dog would strain for undercover and what I dream, world I can't call mine, branching and blooming in the sense of choosing among histories and futures, always present, all at once, commensally. I'm just going to read one more, the last poem in the book. It's called Return Path. Sometimes I call it a dirty villanelle, although not dirty in the sex talk way. I mess up the rules of the villanelle a little bit, and it's also a poem with dirt in it, like a lot of them. Return path. The only way to pray is through my feet, earthward, jolted in return by the fizz of a spiking current. I never thought a circuit would loop through me, believed I was separate, alone, done with gods. But here it is. I found a way to pray. Through my feet, I reach down. There's something animate, mycelial, that touches me back. It's a species of love, a thinking spike, a zinging circuit of energy and dirt, blood and spirit, plutonic conversation, mostly wordless. The way I've found to pray is through my feet, soul bare to wooden boards, or rug, or slate, or buggy grass, just as you want to press skin to a beloved's, sparking a current, a circuit. Not that Earth loves me exactly, matters what matters. She wants me to return the mess of my only body, pray from head through feet as I sink, unthinking ash,